Sir, this was my second horror fest. Uh and well, first off, they're both fucking great. They were both great. I enjoy this. This is a good thing that y'all do.
Yeah, thank you.
um but having gone through those and then just flat out having known you and doing this show, I think it's finally happened to where and it may be a cliche answer, but I think it finally happened to where I've watched enough stuff now to where I'm like, this one particular director, I think this is my guy. And it's John Carpenter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like I said, cliche, very cliche answer, but I mean, them films don't lie. The facts don't lie. They are his movies fascinate me on a whole nother level. I mean, sure, there are movies that I've seen that are not made by him that could be qualified as better, but anytime somebody now will say like, "Hey, let's watch a John Carpenter movie," I'm like, I don't even care what it is. I want to watch it. Yes, put it on. Surprise me. Don't even tell me what you're putting on. Just that's all you had to say. JC, I'm there.
I I don't know if I'm comfortable with Sparrow calling me the master, but I appreciate the high praise. I still have I still have a lot to learn myself here, but I can say one thing. John Carpenter, you might consider it a cliche answer or even a safe answer, but his catalog kind of speaks for itself. With
Exactly.
your, you got you got the the double John Carpenter day last week, where you pretty much got everything in his film catalog, withstanding The Ward, Body Bags, Village of the Damned, and Memoirs of Invisible Man, Starman, Dark Star, Assault on Precinct 13. I don't think I left one out. We even watched Ghost of Mars, which turned out to be a delight.
Surprisingly.
Surprisingly, it's a remake of Assault on Precinct 13 with Escape from L.A. sprinkled on top of it. Oh, we didn't watch Escape from L.A. or Escape from New York, but um, that's not a bad director. Mine's always been George Romero because
Mhm.
and not because I'm a zombie guy. It in particular, it has to do with the documentaries about the making of his movies because watching the guy work is just fucking insane. It's great, but I'm I'm proud. You've gone through two of these with us now, and you know, as crazy as this month was for us on our end, I hope you got to sit down and really enjoy some of the stuff. And it sounds like on Carpenter Day you were glued pretty much to it.
And it's not like a lot of those movies are ones that I hadn't seen. Like I said, like I've as we've been going through them, I've been watching them and I've been enjoying the hell out of them. But then really sitting down with those 2 days and just having those on, it kind of just like solidified it. Just seeing them all back to back to back to back, and you're just like, there's something different here, amongst other things. And part of it also is just kind of the man himself. Like I saw an article today where I saw it, and I don't know if they were trying to make it sound negative or not, but when I read the headline, I'm like, that just sounds like fucking John. That the you know what I mean? Because the article was just like, film director John Carpenter could care less what happens to the Halloween franchise, and I'm like, yeah, that he never has.
He made his nut on the first one, and that's all he ever cared about. He doesn't even. He wrote the second one with a 6 pack or a 12 pack of Budweiser in a hotel room over a weekend, and had to hammer the script out. There's a Brazilian Budweiser commercial about John Carpenter. That's the man has influence everywhere, and you can see that with him too because he knows what he likes to do and he gets to go out there and make it, and that's why his catalog is so is so wide. That's how you can go from uh, Halloween to The Fog to Escape from New York to The Thing to Big Trouble in Little China to Prince of Darkness to They Live to Village of the Damned, and then end up in The Mouth of Madness. And you've legitimately gone across almost every genre, and they all have something a little special about them. And I think that's fucking great.
There's it really, it's like I said, it really is the full package when you add in him and his personality to the mix, because like I said, I was joking about how they were trying to frame the headline and his opinion on the franchise and everything, but it's like, to people on the outside of things, you could look at a lot of things he does and take it negatively, but I've never really perceived it as that. I'm like, this is just a form of honesty that people aren't used to seeing.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like, his honest, him being on it makes him a genius or anything like that, but it's just like here's a guy that does not try to be anything that he's not other than himself.
Yep.
And he makes what he wants to make, how he wants to make it, when he decides to do something. And it's one of those things where I'm just like, he really has, like, when he gets an idea, he's like, all right, but it has to be this. Like, like, I'm sure he's willing for some experimentations and stuff while actually filming, because, but, like, he's just that kind of guy where, like, if a studio head comes in with some notes, gotta love that. We got some notes. And
do you?
Yeah, and he would. I'm sure he'd just take them and just start rolling joints with it.
He doesn't convey the rebel director
Right.
attitude like the others
I feel
do.
he's forced into it. He doesn't want to be the rebel, but they make him the rebel.
He wants to roll fat blunts and play Assassin's Creed and make a movie every so often and enjoy his life and make music. He wants to make music over everything. That
Yeah.
I love the most about him. He's an auteur. He's a true auteur in the film world, and he knows what he wants. On set, very little changes from what he writes to what goes on screen. He's very particular about that. The only time that it was changed over that I know of was James Woods in Vampires, because some of the shit that James Woods came up with was better than what was in the script, and what was on the screen was the better of the two. And I think he said most of the time it was James Woods stuff that made it and not what he wrote. If you have that much control that you can say that all of your movies had very little tweaks made on set, that what you saw is what you got when you went out to set, unlike a George Romero movie where Dawn of the Dead, the pie fight got added because they had pies from the shop in the mall and they could do it because they said the movie was lacking a pie fight, so they might as well have done it.
Yeah.
Whereas John Carpenter, he's got that West Coast Film School attitude to it, but not in a douchey way. So he is the USC film student, but not the douchey one. He's the cool one who sold you weed probably and bought you beer when you were underage, when you were still living in the dorm, and he just so happened to make some really cool movies. Not that I condone that breaking the law shit, but if it happened, it happened, and,
statute of limitations are way out.
Yeah, they're way off on those. So, I'm always taken back when a new release of one of his movies comes out, because y'all got to watch, when we did the share play thing with them, y'all got to watch the new transfers in 1080p, and we were watching the 4Ks next door. And even the 1080p transfers on some of those with the new scans, they looked fantastic. Like Halloween, the 6 o'clock version that we watched, that's the best that movie's looked. And it will probably be the best way it looks, because I don't think there's going to be that big of a difference when we go from 4K to 8K with those. I think that technology's too far off anyway. But we watched Prince of Darkness on the new scan, and besides, the movie itself just being underappreciated and creepy as all hell, we started seeing a lot more of what he probably originally intended with the colors and the shadows and all of that. And the guy, for not being an Italian director, really made some ambiance with some colors and sounds that other directors I don't think do. And that leads me to my question for you. I'm pulling The Thing and Halloween from the equation
Okay.
because they are masterpieces and they have their own Mount Rushmore somewhere. What was your favorite John Carpenter from the 2-day stint?
I would say my tops, even if you did have The Thing and Halloween in the equation, my top two are, I'd have to say, Christine and In the Mouth of Madness.
That's a good friggin' unexpected. But the thing is, you could have said any of them and it would have been fine.
No.
But that Christine too, the soundtrack, the flaming car chase, like all of that stuff is just superb. And then
I watched that movie one time. It was love at first sight.
Yep. um, I want to say, did you enjoy your experience with The Fog this time around too?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
There's nothing quite like that Antonio Bay ghost story. Absolutely fantastic.
Let me actually pull up the list here. Where is it? I still have it. Let me see what all was on. Trying to think. Did we get to talk about the Halloween Joe Bob special, or were we on break and not talk about it yet?
Oh shit, we did not get to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Let me say about that, because that's just because it's all fancy to do on the list, so that obviously jumped out in my head. But that Joe Bob Halloween special really kind of opened my eyes to some shit in a good way. With Elvira, because I've known who she is as far back as I can remember. She's very iconic. I've watched stuff that she's hosted. This was the first time I had ever seen any of the movies that she is actually in. And that movie, that's an easy 4. Like, that movie was so damn good. And it was one of those situations again where I'm like, I am so mad that I hadn't seen this earlier.
And even if Mistress of Darkness, the original movie, is better than that one, that set a pretty high bar for Haunted Hills, because you're probably like me with this, where if you go into a movie knowing it's supposed to be a stupid movie, you have fun with it because it's supposed to be a stupid movie. You don't go into a movie expecting gold and it turns out to be a stupid movie and then it becomes a popcorn throwing movie, which is fun in its own right. This, it felt like we got all of the inappropriate humor of Elvira, and we didn't get any sort of bullshit filler with it that needed to go in. Like, it was just straight on, boom, 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 down the line. All of the dumb jokes that just were slid in there, when we were watching it, we were like, oh, that's funny. And then we'd sit there for a second and go, that's not kid friendly. This is great. And just kept rolling with it. It was, I loved it. I've never seen it either.
Her large friend in the movie, Ziggy, I think was the name, or something with a Z, right?
I think so.
Something like that. But amazing. I'm like, I need to look up this woman and see anything else that she might have done. One of the best sidekick characters I've seen in a hot damn minute.
Yep.
And it was funny too. And during the interview, during the interview, it was, if I may, it was fucking adorable, because it was one of those situations where it was kind of cool to see Darcy be as starstruck as she was.
Oh
You
yeah.
you you could tell. You could tell. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. It's just like I was happy for her.
I like that was kind of how I felt when I met her.
Hmm.
But seeing her get starstruck like that, like the Svengoolie episode it happened, but that was something different there. There was something like super organic to it, and I think maybe because they're in a similar boat, you know, in
That's
terms
what
of
I'm.
hosting,
I feel that a lot too. Yeah, you can tell.
and that's awesome for. And I think it's awesome for Darcy because congrats, Darcy, you're on the Mount Rushmore of horror movie hosts now with Joe Bob, Svengoolie, Elvira, uh, Vampira, even though they all have a very tumultuous relationship that you refuse to talk about, which I think is great, that you don't talk about it. You know, John Zachary, like all of the names of horror hosts, and you know, Darcy's gonna be up there with Elvira at the end of the day, or Cassandra Peterson, whichever name you want to throw out there
Hmm.
for it.
Um, and there was one thing that was cool. Like, it was funny because before the show came on, obviously, I mean, Darcy's tweeting all the fucking time. And then, of course, I think I had already followed before I even knew that she was going to be on there. I'm pretty sure I'd already followed uh Cassandra Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
But so I don't know who posted what, but I remember earlier in the day I saw a photo and I was kind of confused. I mean, not really, but I was just like, that's an interesting photo. I'd like to know the story behind this photo. And during the interview with her on Joe Bob, they didn't specifically talk about the photo like per se, but throughout the interview, I got the answer that I was looking for because the photo was her, in costume, and it was she was with Paul Rubens, but in Pee Wee costume, and I'm like, that's an interesting together, But then in the interview, she was, talking about, and I feel bad forgetting his name, but I know it was Jambi on Pee Wee that she had. I don't know if I interpreted it as they had a relationship or if they were just really good business partners. I didn't catch that part of it, and I don't know her biography, but
I don't
pretty
either.
sure, yeah. But uh, that's that was there because they mentioned that in the interview briefly like that, and I was like, I don't know if they said Jambi, but they said his name, and I'm like, that sounds familiar, and I looked it up, and he was Jambi, and I that's what because they were talking about, I think when they were talking because he passed away, and I think they were talking about something cool that somebody did like for his funeral or something like that because the box that Jambi's head would be in Pee Wee's Playhouse, they incorporated that somehow.
Oh,
um but once that was, I'm like, oh well, then that photo makes perfect sense. I just thought it was just like a happenstance of like, let's get these two celebrities together for a photo. It'd be great, makes sense. But then I'm like, oh, so I'm like, they were all friends, like they knew like they hung out, like you know.
and I think Pee Wee made a cameo in Elvira, Mistress of the Dark
Hmm.
in the '80s. So I mean, like again, not two people that you would necessarily put on the same stage, but it honestly kind of works because she's a goofy Joe Bob host, but with more comedic gags than knowledge mixed with comedy. So
Hmm.
he's academically funny. She's funny.
Right.
I guess I don't
uh
know.
but and so it's funny too because now I'm starting to think, so I'm like, okay, Elvira hanging out, and there's Paul Rubens, Pee Wee, and all that stuff. And then I remember the one. I think I even mentioned it once or twice on the show, but my fun fact that Rob Zombie's very first job was working behind the scenes at Pee Wee's Playhouse. So Rob Zombie's hanging out with all of them, and I'm like, if I could have been a fly on the wall.
throw Alice Cooper into the mix. I'm trying to remember. There's a famous picture of Alice Cooper with somebody you wouldn't expect him to be with, and I'm gonna find it and post it to Discord. But that's the same kind of thing where
Is it wrong that my mind immediately went to the Queen that just passed away, Alice Cooper and the Queen? Because you said somebody I wouldn't expect.
I'm gonna find this now because I didn't really finish what was going on in the picture, but the lady was wearing leather bedroom type deal.
Oh, okay, yeah. So definitely, well, and maybe Tipper Gore. No.
Maybe Tipper Gore. we can say that now because she basically tried to ruin everything for everybody.
That's true. I don't care. Even if you're too young for that joke, Google it. You'll get it. Those jokes will never go out of style for me. I will always make a Tipper Gore joke if I can. So
I feel like we don't. I feel like we don't do it enough.
yeah. Again, it's just because nobody really remembers her except for people like us and older.
Oh God, I am old. Oh,
I mean,
God.
and plus the whole man bear pig thing is a little bit more popular nowadays with Al himself. Super serial.
Man Bear Pig.
But so that was obviously I mean Joe Bob's always entertaining, but that was definitely extra entertaining to watch. I'm kind of just grabbing things as I see them, but one that you showed that I hadn't seen in a very, very long time, and it was of higher quality. I can't remember exactly what grade of quality it was when you showed it, but what was it? War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
I just that caught my eye as I walked by when it was on. Because during the day when the kids and everybody's working, I have it on. it's
Damn
blurry.
it! It's gonna blur. Damn it. Well, Elvira with Alice Cooper, oddly enough, but not the picture I was looking for.
Okay, well that makes sense. Kind of.
Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Continue.
But no, War of the I was just like, that was one of those things where like when it was on, like it first started, and I started seeing like spaceships and the green lasers and stuff. Like I'm walking by, and then I'm just like, wait, and I sat down, and I was just like, wait a minute, and I was just mesmerized. I immediately looked it up, like the fucking highest quality. I don't remember what I found. It was either, fucking Blu-ray or a 4K. I can't remember, but I immediately threw it in a cart.
You picked up the Criterion cut that we watched, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think so, because it had some cool artwork on it. So, yeah.
And Paramount's putting out a 4K of it now too.
Oh, I might have to wait to see that. I didn't purchase it. I added it to the cart.
I think the Criterion's probably going to be the best it's going to look, but I'm gonna, because of the features that are on it. The new 4K I think is going to lack them, but we were all in agreement that day. We liked the movie fine, but we were just in awe of how good it looked. I mean, it was just like, why does everything coming out of this era that Criterion puts the number to, they absolutely just knock it out of the park? Because the Blob looks great too.
I gotta bring it up because I just saw it and I'm like, oh yeah, we did watch that again. And I still feel it. My opinion of it has not changed. Still, my MVP for the year is the dude from Midnight.
Can I tell a story about us all watching that together?
Go for it.
So we had two people here who had never seen it before. Well, three. Chandler had also never seen it. So we had three people here who had never watched it before, and then whoever was watching with us in the Discord.
I hope at the very least you told Chandler beforehand. You're like, now this is Ian's MVP.
I did.
Okay, good.
I did.
So there was some sort of expectation.
Yeah. When said MVP starts blaming everything on the daughter to the mom, everybody in the room at some point said some variation of, "This guy's a fucking piece of shit. This guy's the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. What a piece of fucking shit." I jumped in on it as well, threw in my own 2 cents on it. I cannot. I think it's been so long since I watched it that I forgot how bad and how cringy that whole thing is.
Horrible. He is so bad.
Awful. And saves the fucking day.
The redemption you didn't know was coming. I'm not going to say it was warranted, but you definitely didn't see it coming.
Definitely not. And this is based off of a pulp novel. I want to pick up the written copy of Midnight and figure out just how fucking bad it actually is.
There's a part of me, and I'm not gonna. I have absolutely. I didn't even know that the book existed until you just said it. For some reason, I'm like, he is so bad. I'm like, I guarantee you, it's as graphic as the scene in the book version of it.
I may not read the book now, but it's John. All right, so John Russo is the co-writer of Night of the Living Dead. He is the guy who wrote Midnight, the novel and the screenplay. So he also wrote Return of the Living Dead, not the movie that was readapted by Dan O'Bannon, but he's written a lot of stuff, and I gotta find out, one, is he actually a good writer, and two, did he write to a specific pattern? I want to know with his other stuff, because there are levels of uncomfortable there that I think are on the level of, you have a hat with a bunch of random shit on strips of paper, and he was just pulling shit out of the hat and was
and
like,
it was all the bad stuff.
and it was all the bad stuff, and it's like, how can I make this situation even worse? Awkward dinner table conversation with stepdaughter's mom about how much of a whore stepdaughter is. Oh, that's pretty bad. Let's see how we can make that worse. Have awful stepdad save the day. What? And then you just kept pulling them, and it just kept getting worse.
I just kind of had an idea, and now this is completely out in left field, but I would be interested to see if there's any type of connection to this. But part of me is wondering, do you think that this was kind of a slight middle finger to anybody who said that Archie Bunker was too much?
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's like, no, you thought that? You think that's bad? And I'm like, let me give you what they could have done.
Yeah. oh, maybe. Yeah.
Which, you know, I love me some All in the Family, all right? I used to watch Nick at Night all the fucking time. All right, and I love that show, you know. So I love, what was his name? Carol O'Connor, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines.
Something like that.
But no, I love me some Archie. I thought that was a very revolutionary show. But there's part of me now that's thinking, I'm like, that guy in Midnight, I'm like, that's the real nightmare Archie.
That is evil aligned Archie.
Yeah, that's Dark Universe Archie.
I all jokes aside about it, though, that rewatch of it after not watching it for a long time, I enjoyed that a lot more this time around. The Ghost of Mars effect was in full swing. Yes.
I wish I could have seen the reactions to those people that you said you watched it with when he comes in at the end.
One of these days, I'm gonna rig it up, similar to how Red Letter does, but not for everybody, because you don't want cackling the whole time, which is what I tend to do. But I'll rig it up so you can get first reactions on some of the stuff that we've watched but nobody else has. Or even better, when, you know, inevitably I throw something that you haven't seen. I got to get your reaction for it. Kind of like the first time we watched Hellmaster. I kind of wanted to see what your reaction to that was.
Yeah.
And we still have not been able to put it into words yet.
But yeah, Midnight. That's dude. Still, I don't know how you come back from that, but somebody, goddamn, was crazy enough to do it. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna do what everybody has told me not to do with my script or story.
I'm gonna take the irredeemable character and I'm gonna redeem them.
Mm-hmm.
That that's Mike or Alan from Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox getting a redemption somehow. That's how fucked up that is.
Part of me feels that somewhere in headcanon that they're somehow they're the sons of this guy.
What do they look like? Giant pieces of shit, really, just like their dad.
And then of course we also had on, and I mean, what else more can be said? We what's Halloween without a little Evil Dead? I do have to say, now I saw what was it? It was 2013 was the year, right?
Yeah, Evil Dead. Or it's just Evil Dead. Yeah.
I was excited about it. I saw that like opening week when it was in the theater. I was excited about it. I knew what it was going to be. I mean, I didn't know what to expect, but I mean, I knew that, it's not traditional. Like I knew, but I was fine. Now, oddly enough, similar story to what you kind of just said. At the time, this was way before Mrs. Punk Rock. So I was kind of entangled with a coworker at the time. Not proud, it happens. But anyway, this person was very, very, very opposite my style. But somehow we just enjoyed each other's company, at least at work. Now we really hate each other and haven't. Anyway, that's going off on a tangent. That's for the therapist. So I'm with her, and she watched horror movies, but she was of like, she's like a Grudge. I like the Grudge kind of person. Those are her things. And so I was all excited. She's like, "Oh, a horror movie's coming out," and she's like, she didn't know anything about the other Evil Dead movies, nothing. So me, her, and then a couple that she knew, which were again more aligned with her style. We all went to the theater, and we're watching the movie. And there was probably more than a dozen times where all three of them would stop watching the movie and just stare at me like it's your fault that we're here. And then I was almost considering it a Christmas gift, an early Christmas gift, because I started seeing the scene with, well, it was just before the scene with the tree. Being the man that I am and knowing the previous movies, I'm like, oh God, they're going to go there. And I was just kind of like, oh, they're really not going to like this. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, yeah, here we go. It was a glorious time in the theater for me. But anyway, but as far as the movie goes, I've never disliked that movie. Obviously I prefer my Bruce Campbell's.
Sure.
But I've never disliked that movie. But it seems to get better each time I watch it.
Yeah.
Like I said, there was never an original dislike, but it grows on me more and more each time. I'm like, this is good. This is good.
What did you think? Speaking of Evil Dead, what did you think of Bloody Muscle Bodybuilder in Hell, the Japanese Evil Dead movie that was our midnight fare.
It was so high.
Well, I have good news for you. I mean, I guess I could play it at any point, but Shudder is adding it and Evil Dead Trap 1 and Evil Dead Trap 2 this month, I think on the 13th.
There's actually some other shit that's been popping up. I don't know if it was on I don't know if it was a part of Horror Fest or not, but I'm pretty sure they're on Shudder. And I don't know if you've seen them or not, but I've also been hearing a lot about the VHS series.
We've never done them, but VHS 99 apparently is knocking doors down left and right.
Yeah. Yeah. That and Terrifier's been coming. I mean, I've always kind of known what Terrifier was. I've never seen them, but like that's been kind of popping up a lot. I mean, I know that they made another one recently, but uh so it could be just from that. But I feel like it's getting a lot more exposure than one would expect something like that too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good thing. I'm all that.
I think it's picking up steam a little bit, and Terrifier 2 helped. It had a pretty decent little limited theatrical run. It's hit streaming already. The first one it's a killer clown movie. I mean,
Right.
that's all it is. That's all it is, and that's good. It keeps it simple. I don't know how to say it without sounding like an ass, but I don't bust over Terrifier like others do. I do get it. Like it's just not for me
Mm-hmm.
to be perfectly frank. But I don't think it's necessarily bad either. And I was a little bit off put that they're saying that the second one's better and the runtime on it's absurdly long, and I'm like, that's pretty bold. But I am genuinely curious on it. VHS as well. I know they've done. I know they've done what is it, 4 or 5 now of those too.
Yeah,
They
I
might be
feel like
worth
it's.
looking
I
into.
feel like I've seen it scrolling through Shutter a lot, like various ones and stuff. So like, I know that there's a couple, but I think like the '94 one really, and there's something about it. So I'm like, I need to give. I mean, I want to watch everything, but that keeps popping up. Um, Now we watched. There were two movies in here that were great, that are staples. One, I'm always down to watch 24/7. Another, I feel got really overwatched, and so I've taken a break from it. But when you showed it, it was just like, God damn, this really is fucking great. With Shaun of the Dead.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And the other one that I'm always down 24/7 is Idle Hands. Um, but no, Shaun of the Dead. Great movie. Like I said, there's never been a moment where I've disliked it, but that initial, it was like Grandma's Boy. I don't dislike Grandma's Boy, but I'm pretty sure that there was a summer where it was on 24/7 for a whole summer in
Oh
my
yeah,
house. And
yeah.
it's just like Shaun of the Dead was another one of those movies. Um, but it like I said, when we were watching it, it kind of popped in my head. I'm like, I wonder if they knew when they were making it what they had, because it's like I know that at least I'm pretty sure Simon Pegg and some of those other people had done things prior, but I really don't remember hearing Simon Pegg's name as much as you do or have until that movie came out.
Oh yeah. I think that launched him in the U.S. and everything. I think.
And it's just like I wonder if like the way it plays out in my head is they film the scene, like the infamous scene when they're drunk and there's the zombie and they're all like, doing the thing, and the zombies here like, and they're drunk just making silly music sounds and shit. And I'm like, you're like, this is really great. And then they stopped and thought about the rest of the movie that they have, and they're like, oh my God. Like, I wish I could have been there the first time that they all watched the finished product to see what they had made.
I don't think a movie. I don't think a set of movies like that have had as much of an impact in the fine line between parody and serious movie
Hmm.
that Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End did. And I know The World's End's kind of like the bastard movie that people either really like it or they really hate it, or
I don't
there are
know if
some
I've
people that
seen
just
that
go
one. That's
full
the
on man.
Alien one.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it's the. I'll put it to you this way: it's the movie that reminds us all that we get old, and it does it in a very thoughtful way. I'm one of the pro World's End people. Although Hot Fuzz I think might be better than all three of them, just because extremely quotable, extremely action, extreme horror. It's all the great things rolled into one. But Shaun of the Dead set the bar so damn high and used Dawn of the Dead cues in it. It had all the references to which we watched Zombie right after that, and the first zombie you see on screen in Zombie is seen in the backyard in Shaun of the Dead. There was all this cool stuff that connected them, and even if Hot Fuzz is a technically better movie, Shaun of the Dead has something that I think all three of them don't have, or the other two don't have, and that is it had a lot of heart when it came out. Didn't necessarily expect it to do well, and it just blew up. That's pretty damn awesome.
The two big takeaways for me, I mean, there's a lot of takeaways from that movie, but the two that stand out the most is for as a goofy and silly movie as it can get to be in certain points, it's really kind of almost outstandingly remarkable that you can like experience that movie, but then there's the whole thing where he's like, get that gun away from my mom. You know, where it's just like they don't fully come out of the comedy, but it's a moment where you're just like, oh no, you know, and it works. It's
Yeah.
powerful for his goof, and then even with fucking at the end where homeboys play the zombie playing video games in the fucking outhouse or the shed, and
Probably smells like an outhouse.
yeah, but you know, it that and for as long or as old as that movie is now, and it has a lot of quotable lines and you know, classic scenes. There is one quotable line from that movie that is always, I guarantee you that this line every day gets said at least at minimum 2,000 times a day across the world every day since that movie came out. And it doesn't matter what context you say it in. If you find an open opportunity to say it, you will say, you've got red on you.
It's like we were telepathic for a second because I knew that was what you were going to go with. And yes, I try to use it at work whenever I can.
It's not one of
Fuck.
those things that outstays its welcome. It's just it's that damn good that it can live that long.
You could be having the worst day ever, and you got some marinara on you or something, and somebody says you got red on you to you, and in that moment, everything's right in the world.
Life doesn't suck just a little. It sucks just a little less.
That's man, we really grew up at like the finest moment in cinema, I think.
You know, it's funny, and I won't get into too much detail because it'll sound bad, but uh, I've had like a bit of like for the last few years, I've kind of had like a general kind of like mortality depression in my head, like just fears and stuff. Uh, the last few months, I've kind of like gotten out of it, and I'm finding out I'm finding more appreciation in things,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I'm like, it's a much funner side of the fence to be on, regardless. But I think that's where like a lot of these thoughts are coming from. It's because, like I said, I've seen the movie 1,000 times, but really seeing it again that time after staying away for so long, sometime somewhat intentionally. Uh, yeah, That I guarantee you by the end of before we hit 2100, somebody, one person, at least one person will have that on their gravestone. You've got red on you. You know it'll happen, and I won't think bad of that person.
I'm calling my lawyer right now. Make sure that gets written in somewhere. No, I don't want. I don't want to ask this question for tonight's show. I want you to stew on it. If you had to put a line like that on your gravestone, what would that line be?
Oh, I already know what. Well, I've again having said that I've had the fog for the last few years.
Sure.
I've thought of that for a long time. uh, there is well one and probably what would be more realistic, and it's not a line from a movie, but there's a Blind Melon song that's not No Rain, although I really like that song. There's a Blind Melon song that I really really love, and there's a passage in there that I ironically it's what the singer has on his, but it fits. But if we had to go from a horror movie, like you're saying, I already know, and Sparrow will know because I made the joke on one of his posts not too long ago. But it's not a uniform; it's a way of life.
Not to derail the conversation, but I've had some issues with mortality lately myself. So little things like that, there's still some humor in it. And in that one, in that case, Ian, fucking a man. That's if if mine is get some light over here, trash is taking off her clothes again. That might cause people just to stop and look, and but also oddly fitting somehow. But yeah, that going with that quote, that is that's a hell of a statement.
Now I know we're running a little late, but I would be there's no way that we can talk about the end of Horror Fest without going through them, even though I'm sure we've talked about parts of these movies to death time and time again. Uh, the traditional ending of Horror Fest, Halloween, in the series. Now, this was fun. This actually was like because of what happened with Ends, and I almost it's this is actually kind of a credit to Ends. I'm not saying that there was because of any positivity or negativity that might have been caused by that movie, but because of that movie, it made me really kind of analyze those movies more. And
Mm-hmm.
like I've kind of just been like, I can't watch enough. So when all of them were on, again, just like the John Carpenter day, I'm like, this is a good day. Like I don't care which ones we're watching. I mean, we watched all of them, but
Much.
but like I said, it didn't matter. I love seeing Loomis on the road trip. I I didn't even hate Rob Zombie Halloween 2.
I didn't either.
It's like, and that's a movie I notoriously hated. Like I'm not saying that it is changing any serious thoughts, but I didn't hate that it was on and I watched it. And I'm like, yeah, there's just something now about the character of Michael Myers now that I'm just asphyxiated with, and I'm like, I need, I need more. Wherever we go, I need more. Cult, I don't care. Bring it on.
I had a moment during that. I didn't get to watch Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween 1. I got sick when I got back in with breakfast, and I ended up missing Halloween 1. But boy, was I awake for Halloween 2. And actually, y'all got to watch a different cut than us because we had the theatrical cuts and not the unrated ones because we prefer the theatrical cuts in that case because they cut some of the Rob Zombieism out of it, which is sometimes needed, I think, to tell a better story. One thing I loved about it, and I didn't realize it had been set up this way, we started with Halloween 6 Producer's Cut, which is unofficial canon because it's an alternate cut of the 6th movie. Not to go into too much on the history of it. They filmed the movie, didn't like what they had, reshot it. Donald Pleasance dies while they're shooting, and they have to chop up what they've got to make a movie out of. So you get two completely different versions by about the 30-minute mark of the movie. Then we did Rob Zombie. Then we did the Halloween extended cut, which is the TV inserts, which set up the Halloween 2 timeline. We watched the movies in their different timeline formats. So 6 is alternate on its own. It could be inserted in with 6. We did the remake canon. Then we did the Halloween 1, Halloween 2, we did H2O and Resurrection after Halloween 2. That's right. So we did the ignore any movie after part 2 timeline. Then we hopped in and did Halloween extended cut, Halloween 2, Halloween 4, 5, and 6, the Jamie Lloyd series. So we did that timeline. Then we took a break, did Halloween 3, which is always a treat. And guess what we did? We ate a Reese's Cup at the time Tom Atkins' ass comes on screen to make the meme come to life. Because
There you go.
we were all delirious by that point. And then we ended on Halloween as a standalone, as its own thing, which I thought was very cool. We got to live all of the timelines in a single day like that.
Yep. It was in one thing that it's like I completely forgot. It was kind of a surprise because the Busta Rhymes stuff that's more present in my mind, and it completely made me forget. I'm like, oh yeah, fucking LL Cool J was in one of these movies.
Yep.
And I'm just sitting there, and that's why I'm like, this is when he was on that In the House. He had that NBC money, and then they're like, you know what, I'm gonna be in a movie. Now this was before what was it, fucking Deep Blue Sea?
It might have been right around.
Another.
What year was Deep Blue Sea? Was it 98? Acting like we don't have the internet here, I am, but you know, when I could have just looked it up myself.
I feel like it was. Oh my god, 99. Okay.
And then H2O would have been 98, so it was right before. Yep.
Wow. But yeah, it was just, I'm like, man, I haven't seen LL Cool J in a hot minute. And then I remember In the House. And then, of course, his music beforehand. But, but no, yeah, it was very fitting. I look forward to next year. Kudos to you and Chandler and everyone else for doing this every year. It is fun. We have some ideas, but we will be returning back to regular format now that October is over. We have a bunch of ideas. We just need to actually pick one. Before we get into holiday shenanigans.
Before we get into holiday shenanigans, I guess in that case I can announce next week. Potentially, we might have to delay because of some personnel will not be available, and they really want to watch these movies because of one particular movie that has a very poorly delivered line, and you'll know it when you watch it. It's in House on Sorority Row, but we were supposed to reschedule Sorority Saturday to Saturday, or Sorority Sunday to Saturday. Unfortunately, half of our peeps who were here for the in-person part of this won't be able to make it, so we're gonna hopefully do it this Sunday. And do the 4 movies that we missed because of the power outage. That should be The Prowler, Girls Night Out, House on Sorority Row, and The Initiation. Yeah, that's it. So, I decided that The Last Call, your friends in schlock horror and everything, we would do a movie that connects the end of the horror fest with Sorority Sunday in Sorority House Massacre, which is basically a Halloween remake in a sorority house. So there we go. As far as the other stuff we have planned, I've got Ian's ear on one idea. It's just going to be getting a copy of what we need. That's going to be the issue. But I'm not as exhausted from the Horror Fest as I thought I was going to be because I'm already ready to rock and roll on some Sorority House Massacre. And Ian, how are you feeling over there? Are you energized? Are you?
Oh, I'm ready to go. I'm ready
Okay.
to go. So we've got that tentatively scheduled for Sunday. Friday, the time has come. This is probably the non-horror, non-comic book movie that I have been waiting for ever since I heard that this was announced and I saw the trailer. But Friday, we're gonna get weird. We're gonna get Weird Al. So Friday, tentatively scheduled for 8 p.m. But Friday, Weird and Al Yankovic story with Daniel Radcliffe will be released. We will be watching that.
I don't think that there's a better way to spend a Friday night.
I'm I'm just hoping it's not going to be a situation where the hype is higher than what I get. But from every single person that I watch online that has seen this already, they all say the exact same thing: is that the world is not ready for this movie. That this, for a lot of people, even people who are do not really even do comedies, like they're like the Scorsese type. They're like, this is movie of the year. So I'm hoping that it lives up to that. I have no reason to think that it won't, based on what I've seen and heard.
I'm just very disappointed that tomorrow's not Friday.
Exactly. But other than that, like I said, keep in touch in the Discord for updates and stuff like that. And I think that's about all I got, man. We went long today, but we had fun.
We, and there's still more Horror Fest to talk about too, because
Yeah.
we could recap that and maybe have a special guest up there to help us chat through it as well. So the Horror Fest will probably still be brought up on in show for the next couple of months anyway, because I think we watched everything.
Horror Fest or October may be over, but Horror Fest goes on in our hearts.
In our hearts. And of course, as I said in Discord, we have some holiday plans coming up as well that I think you guys are going to have a very bloody Christmas with us this year, and we'll have some leftovers from Thanksgiving, perhaps.
I'm gonna nominate something when it gets closer in time in December. I'm not saying that I 100% want to do this, but I feel it's the right thing to do. Is we got to get that Silent Night, Deadly Night movie to watch. I'm not saying do a show on it. I think we've already done that, but just yeah. What was it? It was 3, right? It was 3.
3 is our problem child. I'll fill you in on exactly what's tentative at the moment after the show, because I don't want to give away the surprise to everybody. But y'all stockings will be filled with love this year,
Didn't
and
I
love
think
is red.
I think I just saw that somewhere somebody's doing like a collection bundle of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. Like not
Vestron.
yeah, and I was just I'm like I saw the fourth what was it, the fourth one with the woman, and I was just like, so weird, such a weird movie.
And we didn't even get to the 5th one.
Yeah, yeah, that. That we might have to do because it is Christmas time.
Well, have no fear because we are picking up the Vestron 3-pack of that because we have the first two already. You kind of have to, and the first two are great. Well,
I like both of them.
I like
think
both
they
of
go.
them.
I see your point though on it, but that doesn't change how great it is. Garbage day.
The fact that they had to make an entire movie to recoup their losses because the first movie got absolutely pummeled out of existence because of a Killer Santa, while another Killer Santa movie did not. I respect it. The movie's bad, but it's fun bad.
Yeah.
I'll go down that rabbit hole with you any day, sir.
All right. Well, everybody, until next time. Later.